what's up everybody, it's Lance.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are hard to master, such as
Grand Central Skyport by 25th Century Games.
Grand Central Skyport is a Rondel tableau building game. And this is coming to Kickstarter here in the very near future, so make sure to check out the link down below in the description of this video after you watch it. Now with this particular game, you are going to be moving around a Rondel, collecting cards that you will then be placing into your line of cards, either at the beginning or at the end, and you're trying to match up the different colors, trying to get some tycoons, extra cards that are going to give you points towards the end of the game, or special abilities. And the idea with this one is just trying to match the colors. This is kind of like a pattern matching game. Let's go down to the table where I'll show you how this one works, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on Grand Central Skyport. All right, I've got Grand Central Skyport on the table here. Let me show you this Rondel game. Now, I do want to make sure you understand that everything you see here is prototype, so the final artwork, components, maybe even some of the rules might change once it's released from crowdfunding. That being said, what you have here with this game, you have a very large central board with a Rondel that is on top of a hot air balloon with lots of cards, a deck of cards in the middle. You do also have lots of jumbo-sized tiles, which are also going to double as cards that you'll hold in your hand. You've got lots of tiles that are down here, and I know you can hardly see them. You do have tiles that are here on the sides, and then each player has their own 2 starting tiles, depending on what city they want to play as. You've got New York, London, Tokyo, and Paris in the game, and each player will take their 2 tiles, as well as their 2 starting airship cards, and again, those have your cities printed on them. And then each player will also have their player piece in whatever color they want to pick. You've got 2 different types of player pieces. You've got the acrylic player pieces with their bases, and you can swap out these bases. The blue player does not always have to be New York. I don't know if you guys can read that there. It says New York on the bases. And then you have the miniature version of the player pieces that you could play with. There are also some tiles, some tokens, I guess I should say. These are acrylic, and they are going to act as victory point tiles for when you complete one of the 2 different types of set collection in the game. And then you have a first player piece as well. Now, with this game, I'm not going to be able to explain all of the rules to this game here on this particular frame overlooking the main board. I'm going to have to cut away and show you what the first 3 phases of a turn looks like, and then come back and show you this board again for the 4th phase of a turn, because each turn has 4 phases. The first 3 are going to involve the cards that you're playing in front of you, and then the final 4th phase is going to involve this Rondel. But I do want to make sure you understand that how this game works, each player going clockwise, starting with the first player, is going to take their turn, those 4 phases, until this deck of cards runs out, and that will trigger the end of the game. So, with that being said, I'm going to cut away and show you how the first 3 phases works, and then I'll come back and show you the 4th phase. All right, so taking a look at what each player would have in front of them, as part of setup, each player is going to decide where they're going to place their 2 station cards and 2 airship cards, and you do have to alternate it. You have to do either airship, station, or you would have to do station, airship. You get to choose, and you get to choose which card in which order and that sort of thing. So this is what I have here as part of my setup. Each player does also start with 2 cards. And as part of the first phase of a turn, you play one of the 2 cards that are in your hand, either to the front part of your airstrip or the back part of it. You can't do anything in between, although one of the tycoons will let you break that rule, and we'll come back to that here in just a second. So taking a look at my 2 cards, some of the things to take note on these cards are that there's going to be a number printed in the top left, and that's going to determine how many spaces around the Rondel that you get to move in the 4th phase of the game. We'll come back to that in a second. You do have some icons that are going to be a part of set collection. You have a color, and then you also have an action on each of the cards, and you'll want to pay attention to those actions and the colors more than anything. So I've got a red one here that says I can switch with any stack, and I've got a green one which says I need to switch it with an orange airship. Now, a stack is going to be when you have cards of the same color that are side by side. You'll put those on top of each other, and that will form a stack. Now, a stack can be just one card, but more often than not, a stack is going to be multiple cards. So I can either play this red one or I can play this green one. I'm going to go ahead and play this green one. And again, I have to play it either on this side or I have to play it on this side. And that would complete the first phase. Now, the second phase of my turn is acting out whatever action is on this particular card, which is almost always going to have me moving ships in my line of cards. And in this particular case, I switched this green one that I just played with another one that's orange in my line. Now, I do have an orange one. It's right here. And so I will swap these two. And I put it like that. Now, if I did not have an orange one in my line, I would just not do this particular action, and that would be that. Now, why did I want to switch these two? Well, because I've got green right here next to my New York station, and that's important because this icon right here, these are going to be victory points, this little star symbol. And having this star symbol right next to the green is really important because now I have access to this victory point that's on this station card. So I've got 1, 2, 3 victory points. Now, throughout the course of the game, if I get another green card, so grabbing a green card off of the Rondel here, here's another green card, and if I can get these two green cards to be side by side with each other, they'll come together to form a stack, and now I've multiplied my victory points here. Instead of 1, 2, 3 points, it is 1, 2, 3 multiplied by 1, 2, because I have 2 green cards in this stack. So that's now 6 points instead of only 3 points. And again, I got this one right here because I've matched up the green. Now, if I later on in the game, if a card gets in there and separates me from this green station, I have lost this point. So I don't want to do that by accident. And obviously, I want to try to build up my stacks. I want to try to get more green cards right here and multiply even more points in the game. Now, that's the second phase of a turn, is acting out what the action is on the card that I just played. The third action involves these tycoons that you see up here, and I'll explain how you get a tycoon in the fourth phase. Just know that each of these tycoons have their own special abilities, such as the inventor is going to give you extra victory points for those different icons that are adjacent next to this particular card. And I'll show you how that works here in just a second. But this one also lets you start to put airships to the left or right of this particular card instead of just at the ends of your line. That's really good. Now this particular tycoon, the merchant, and this particular tycoon, the explorer, they work very similar in that they're going to let you move stacks depending on how many different sets of icons that you have right here. And if you get 3 of those icons anywhere in your line by the end of the game, you're going to start earning victory points at the end of the game for those icons. But then you're only going to get to enact what these moving stacks let you do when you play certain particular types of cards, and it's going to be different depending on the tycoon you select. This tycoon right here, the diplomat, he is going to let you move your airship more spaces around the Rondel in the fourth phase of your turn, adding distance to how far you can go around the Rondel, depending on how many different ticket icons you have in your line. And then, of course, you get 3 or more, he's going to give you victory points as well for those tickets. And then you've got the supplier right here, and she's going to let you draw extra cards from the deck, but then she's going to also give you 3 victory points for having each different icon in your hand of cards at the end of the game. Not in your line, but the cards that are in your hand. Now, again, I'll explain how you get one of these tycoons, but once you have one of them, you can play it just like playing a card. These tycoons, and as well as these station cards, and I'll explain how you get that in the fourth phase as well, they double as cards. And so you could play not only the cards, but you could play one of these big tiles, and you would play it just like you would either at the beginning or the end of your line. And it's going to have a number of movement on the Rondel as well. And so that's how those work. They're going to double as cards. But when you play a tycoon, you're not going to play it at the beginning or the end of the line. You're actually going to play it right here underneath one of your stations. And as you can see, it connects with that star icon. And so if I play it on this New York station right here, and I've got green connected over here, I'm not just getting this one icon for the station, but I'm also getting this one icon from the Tycoon. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 star icons multiplied by 2 cards. I now have 8 points from this green stack right here. And in addition to that, in the third phase of the game, that's when you would activate your particular Tycoons if they have certain actions that let you do things such as the merchant here and moving stacks because you have different crates after you've played a specific type of card. That's what the Tycoons are going to do. That's the first 3 phases of a turn. Let's go back up to the central board so I can show you what the 4th phase does. All right, so coming back to the table here, looking at the central board, the 4th phase is when you actually do the Rondel. Now, at the beginning of the game, all of the player pieces are going to start here on the promenade. At the bottom of the board, we're going ahead and remove these acrylic standees off the board. And you're moving around the board on these spaces right here. There are going to be 8 spaces, and generally speaking, the space that is directly across on the other side of the Rondel, those are going to do the exact same thing. This spot and the spot directly across is going to be the promenade spots where you can choose to take one of the Tycoons that you see down here at the bottom. Now, these Tycoons, you've got 5 different types. You've got the Inventor, you've got the Merchant, you've got the Diplomat, you've got the Supplier, and you've got the Explorer. Now, in that third phase, you saw me show you that that's when you would trigger any one of those Tycoons to do the actions that are on the cards. But going to one of those 2 spaces is how you actually get one of the Tycoons. This space and the space that is directly over there in the top right, those are going to be the spaces that let you move stacks that are in your line, so long as they match the color of the card that's right there adjacent to that particular spot. So that's what those 2 spots do. Now, the 2 spots that are on the sides, that's going to be the spot where you get one of the new station cards to take into your hand. And as you can see, it's going to have 2 different colors on the side, and they're going to be all completely random. But that's going to make a difference as to what kind of airship cards you're wanting to take and trying to connect them on the different sides here. That is the only way for you to get more stations other than just the 2 stations you start the game with. And then you have this spot here and the spot that's over there in the top left. Now, these are going to be where you get your set collection pieces. This particular spot right here, you are wanting to get one of each of the 3 different type of icons in the game. You've got the compass, you've got the crate, and you've got the ticket. And if you can get all 3 of those in your line of cards, then you can come to this space and you can claim one of these tokens and get 7 victory points if you're the first person to do it over here. And then that stack over there is going to be one of each of the different colors in the game. And there are 6 different colors in the game, and if you can get all 6, you can get over there and grab yourself one of those tokens. Now, you can only get 1 from each stack throughout the course of the game, so at best you can only claim 1 of these tiles, and these do decrease in value, 7, 5, 3, and 1 throughout the course of the game. That stack over there does decrease as well, but they're worth more points because it's a bigger set that you have to collect. Now, for all of the different spots in the Rondel, except for this spot and that spot over there, you have to make a choice as to whether you want to take the card that is in that spot next to it, the spot that you're stopping on, or if you're going to do the action for that particular spot on the Rondel. Now, this spot and that spot over there, those are the only 2 spots in the Rondel where you get to do both. You get to claim the card and a token if you have the set collection piece completed. Otherwise, you got to make a choice. And if a card is taken from the Rondel, then it is replaced with a new card from the stack. And that is how this stack of cards gets depleted throughout the course of the game. And once you complete the 4th phase, then it goes on to the next player. And again, this is going to continue until you get to the station closing card that is put in this deck of cards. You're going to put it 7 cards from the bottom. So you'll have 7 cards right here. It's always going to be the 8th card. And then once this card is revealed, that's going to trigger the end game. You continue finishing out that round. You play 1 more round, and then you finish the game. And whoever's going to have the most points Taking a look at their line of cards, as I explained to you through the first 3 phases, you saw what gave you points in the game. That's what's going to determine who is the winner. And you'll also add in these victory point tokens if you've gotten them. Whoever has the most points is going to be the winner, and that is how you play Grand Central Skyport. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts here on Grand Central Skyport. So Jeremy, the first thing I want to point out with this game is the incredible artwork. You've got Andrew Bosley artwork on this one, and I think it's really good artwork. I love the way this looks out on the table. It's a Rondel game, which I really do like Rondel games. I like the whole concept of if you take this action here, you're so many spaces away from this action over here, and so you really kind of have to plan that out. You got to think a few turns in advance. That whole spatial aspect of the Rondel is something that I really enjoy. What do you think about this game?
Well, the Rondel with this has 2 opposite sides, and the opposite sides have the same action. So as you move around, if you maybe wanted a card instead of an action, you're only halfway around the board instead of having to do a full revolution to get back to the action that you wanted. And at times you're going to want the card because the cards that are out on the table, like in that how to play section, you're going to have to take cards that you want to play into your tableau because you will be forced to move those cards and those airships if you are able to. So if I have that color blue and I've got to swap with a blue, I'm going to have to swap with a blue. What's really nice is if you can get the ones that have the arrows that tell you to move so many spaces over, by great planning with those cards, you can line your tableau up. But it is going to take a lot of strategy and careful planning to do that. One thing I will say is based on the cards that do come out, it can be lucky at times because you want to get different colors. One of the ways to do the set collection bonus action of collecting that points token is by having one of each color into your tableau. Sounds easy, right? But if you never see a yellow, you're never going to be able to do that. Whereas the other token is going to let you see the different icons more often. So
right.
Colors can be difficult. That's where it becomes a little bit more lucky because everything else is out on the table and you may not see the yellow one that you're looking for. But this is a shorter game, so luck here and there is not one that's going to make or break a game for me per se. If it was, like we've talked about, a heavier game, longer game, luck shouldn't be as prevalent. But with this one being a little bit quicker, it's not one thing to really hold up on. Now, like I said, though, the greatest thing about it is that planning of getting the card, having to play the card, or the tiles, which are cards, so that you can line things up. I feel like a lot of people will spread out and to try to get all those colors and try to move too many of them. I would recommend maybe going for 1 or 2 different colors, and it's a lot easier to move those and double up on them to get more points. So,
and I would also say don't overlook the tycoons because they can give you some very special, powerful abilities.
A lot of endpoints.
That if you get them early on in the game, you can be using them time and time and time again to really maximize their use throughout the course of the game. They can really put you ahead in this one. So don't overlook those tycoons.
I think my favorite tycoon to try and get is the one that's going to let you move around that Rondel 1 or 2 more spaces depending on those icons that you get on your card. So definitely don't sleep on those. They can help your strategy during the game, but also if you get the right symbols, you can maximize a lot of in-game points from them. So.
There's definitely a lot of different ways to make your strategy in this game, all the while having to really work around the Rondel because you're always, you always have to plan as to what you can actually reach in the Rondel. Yeah, it'd be great if I can get the card that's way on the other side, but that might take me a turn or 2 to get to, and hopefully it's still there. So I've got to make a game plan for what I do before I get to that point. And the thing about this game is it is super tricky because you might pick up a card that looks great on the surface, but then when it comes to actually enacting it down on your line, it can mess everything up. And before you know it, what was a really good looking line of cards becomes a complete mess because you picked the wrong card. So this is a very tricky game where you not only have to plan out that Rondel movement, but you've got to be very careful about the cards you get because it might not go so well for your line of cards, and you might, be trying to take a turn or two to rectify what you just messed up. I really like that about this game.
I definitely say be careful though, because with all that movement of the cards and planning out those cards that you're getting to your hand to play later, moving things around, shifting your board, can create analysis paralysis if you have gamers in your group that do that. But if you have gamers that's not a big heavy thing for you, you can, or a problem, you can get the card, and he's telling you that it's hard to manage. It's not that hard to manage. You just have to plan it well. If you get the wrong card, you're going to probably end up playing it, and it's going to hurt you at some point. So make sure you get the right cards and you play them to the right side of your tableau so that you're moving to the correct spot. And again, look for those ones with the arrows, because those are the best to get and play, because you can know exactly where you're going to move them to.
This is definitely one that I think is going to get a lot of replayability, because it's going to leave you thinking, man, why did I do that? Next time I play this game, I'm going to do something different. There's so many things I'm going to do different next time I play it. So it's really going to have that energy with it for you to want to bring it back out to the table and play it again and again and again. So I think you're going to get a bang for your buck with this particular one. The game is Grand Central Skyport. It is from 25th Century Games. They are putting out a bunch of games out on Kickstarter with this Kickstarter game, and we've actually done videos on all the games that they have in this Kickstarter, so make sure to check out all of those different videos. We'll try to tag them at the end of this video for you to click and get easy access to them. But down below, click on the link to the campaign page so you can go and check out all those games, and while you're down there, make sure to leave us some comments. If you like this video, please, please, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to be notified of all of our great new content. I'm Lance.
I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are hard to master. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.